During the Caliphate of Omar, Muslim Mujahideen, the so-called holy warriors of God, invaded many countries and reached from Isfahan in Persia, today Iran, to Tripoli in Libya. In the Islamic year 14, lunar year, Damascus, Homs, Emesa, Baalbek and al-Basra were invaded and conquered. In the year 15, Syria was invaded and the Muslim Mujahideen defeated the Romans, the Byzantines, in the Battle of al-Yarmouk, and conquered the Persians in the Battle of al-Qadisiyah. In the year 16, they invaded al-Awaz and al-Madin in the Battle of Jawala, and the Persian emperor was defeated and ran away in the Battle of Yazidigar. In the same year, Takrit in the east of Iraq was invaded, likewise the Muslim army invaded Kanserine, Halab, Aleppo, Antakya, Antioch, Sorug and Kirkasa. In the year 18, Gondabsior, Jawan, Al-Rahad, Simisa, Haran, Nasibiat, Al-Mosul, Mosul, and Al-Jazira between Iraq and Syria were invaded and looted. In the year 19, some lands of Caesar, the Byzantine Emperor Heraclius, were conquered and captured. In the year 20, the Islamic Mujahideen invaded western part of Egypt and the city of Taistar in Iran. In the year 21, Alexandria in Egypt, Nahawand in Iran, and Barqa in Libya were invaded. In the year 22, Muslim Mujahideen invaded Azerbaijan, Al-Dinir, Masabtank, Hazan, Al-Rai, Askar and Kamwams in the middle of Asia, and Tripoli in Libya. In the year 23, in which the Caliph Omar was assassinated by Piraz the Victorious, the Muslim Mujahideen invaded Kerman, Sajistan, Makran and Isfahan. In those many bloody battles, thousands upon thousands of innocent people were murdered by the bloodthirsty Muslim Mujahideen. Many women were raped and many children enslaved and sold as slaves in the slave markets. Many houses were burnt and looted and thousands of families were destroyed. The Muslims robbed and looted the treasures of those places and distributed the wealth, women and children among themselves. It was not a religion that they wanted to preach, but to rob, to enslave and rape. This reminds us of the teaching of the Lord Jesus Christ about Satan, in which he said, "The thief, Satan, comes not but to steal, to kill and destroy, but I have come to give life and life in its abundance." John 10:10. If we compare the peaceful preaching and spreading of the gospel of Jesus by his apostles Peter, Paul and the others among the pagans of the Roman Empire and the spreading of the sword of Islam among the Christians of the Byzantine Empire and the Zoroastrians of the Persian Empire, for sure, the above verse of Jesus makes clear distinction between the work of Satan, killing, stealing and destruction, and the work of God, giving life and life in its abundance. It is estimated that, during the 5 centuries of the spread of Islam, 272 million people were killed, of whom 80 million were Hindus and 60 million were Christians. In order to know how much damage and destruction those Muslim shayateen, devils, had done in those countries they had invaded, read al-Tabari in his huge volumes Al-Tarikh or the History, and Al-Tabaqat al-Kubra by Ibn Sa'd. One of those Muslim Mujahideen, an Arab man by the name of Mahafaz, narrated one of his experiences in the battles. In the year 16, he participated in the Battle of Jawala in Iran. He said, "We entered the city and I saw a woman like a deer in her beauty and her face shines like the sun. I took her and her clothes and she became my Jariya, slave girl." Al-Tabari Volume 4, pages 26 to 27. The aims of those battles and invasions were not only to enslave and rape the women of those conquered countries but also to loot their treasures. In few years the companions of the Prophet Muhammad became filthy rich, that their wealth were counted in millions of dinars, today millions of US dollars. Before the advent of Islam, the Arabs of the Arabian Peninsula were living in abject poverty and continuous starvation. They used to suck the stones in order to slake their thirsty throats and dry tongues. They also used to drink their camels' urines and sometimes their own urines to quench their thirst. The Byzantine commander understood the problem of those Muslims who came to fight him and hence offered money and clothes to them, but they refused to accept them because they wanted the fertile lands of Levant, the Fertile Crescent, and the women and children of the Christians. In short period, their invasions made them very rich and enabled them to possess the lands, women, and children of the so-called infidels. Just a few examples will show how much those companions stole from those countries they invaded. When the third Caliph Osman ibn Affan was murdered, he had 1,000, 500,000 of dirham and 100,000 dinar. This is equal in our today counting millions of dollars. Al-Zubair ibn al-Awwam had 51,000 dirham, 51 million dirham and 200,000 dinar. Besides that, he had houses and estates in Alexandria, Basra, and Kufa, capital of Iraq. When he died, he left behind him large garden. If it had been sold, it would have brought thousand and 600,000 dinar. $1,600,000, a billionaire. Abdul Rahman ibn Awf, when he died, he left gold that they used axes to cut. Saad ibn Abi Waqqas left behind him 250,000 of dirham. Ibn Masud left 90,000 dirham. Talha ibn Abi Abdullah had in his hand a ring of gold, which has diamond in it. His daily income from his land in Iraq was 1,000 dirham. When he died, he left 2,200,000 of dirham and 200,000 of dinars. He also left 100 jars full of gold. Omar ibn al-As, he was the one who invaded Egypt, he left behind him 70 jars of pure gold. While he was dying, he offered his gold to his sons, but they refused to accept it because they believed it had been taken unjustly, looted. When Zayd bin al-Harith died, he left behind him gold that had been cut by axes. This is the same adopted son, Zayd ibn Muhammad, whom the selfish Prophet Muhammad lusted after his wife, Zainab bint Jahash, and forced him to divorce her so that he could marry her. References for the above quotes: Tabaqat ibn Sa'd, pages 53, 76, 77, 157, Al-Masudi in Mira-oi al-Zahab Volume 1, pages 544 to 545, and Kitab al-Makarizi, Volume 1, pages 140 and 564. The Islamic conquests or invasions continued after the assassination of the second Caliph Omar ibn al-Khattab. Before the Caliph, Omar was justly killed, by Abu Lu'lu'ah al-Fayrizi, Piraz the Victorious, who administrated the vigilante justice. A Muslim leader led his troops without informing the Caliph Omar and marched toward the invasion of Egypt. At first, the Caliph Omar expressed his disapproval of such step without his permission. Nevertheless, when the Caliph learned that his leader, Amir ibn al-As, had succeeded in invading Alexandria, he gave his approval of the campaign. There are two important things to mention regarding this invasion. First of all, Amir ibn al-As informed the Caliph Omar ibn al-Khattab that he found a very large library in Alexandria which had over 1 million books. The Caliph replied back and instructed him that every book that doesn't honor Islam and exalt Allah, burn it. At that time, the Alexandrian library was the greatest and largest library in the Western world. It contained books on theology, philosophy, history, and various branches of science. Following the order of the Caliph of Medina, Amir ibn al-As set all the books aflame. It said that the fire and smoke continued for 6 months before every book was fully consumed and destroyed. The decision of the second Caliph of Islam became a guiding principle for Muslim troops wherever they went. Everywhere they went, they destroyed Christian churches and Hindu temples and burned to ashes the infidels' libraries. Sometimes, beautiful churches' buildings were spared and converted into Muslim mosques. In this regards, the contemporary Indian philosopher and historian, Swami Vivekananda says, their watchword is, "There is one God, Allah, and Muhammad is his prophet." Everything beyond that not only is bad, but must be destroyed forthwith, at a moment's notice. Every man or woman who does not exactly believe in that must be killed, everything that does not belong to this worship must be immediately broken, every book that teaches anything else must be burnt. From the Pacific to the Atlantic, for 500 years blood ran all over the world. That is Mohammedanism, Islam. This speech delivered at the Shakespeare Club of Pasadena, California, USA, on February 3, 1900. The Coptic Christians of Egypt agreed to pay the jizya to the second caliph, and therefore he allowed them to continue following their religion. The Caliph Omar appointed Amir ibn al-As the Wali of Egypt, the governor. Initially, Amir ibn al-As did something which made all the Copts to be happy. It happened to be their great spiritual leader, the Patriarch of Alexandria, the Pope of the Coptic Orthodox Church. Benjamin went into hiding for 11 years from the Byzantine authority. The Copts approached Amir ibn al-As and requested him to restore their fugitive patriarch Benjamin. Amir accepted their request and restored their spiritual leader. But, such a favor met with another huge demand of jizya by the Caliph Omar. Amir ibn al-As tried to convince his caliph that he was demanding too much from the Copts of Egypt. The caliph said, "Enriching of the Medina is more important than robbing and destroying the entire Egypt." In other words, rob the Christians of Egypt and enrich the Muslims of Medina, the capital of the Islamic Caliphate. After the assassination of the second Caliph Omar, he was succeeded by Osman ibn Affan. During the Caliphate of Osman, Muslims invaded Libya, Tunisia, Algeria, and reached up to Morocco. The Berber tribes of North Africa caused a serious problem to the Muslim invaders. Whenever they invaded a city and forcibly converted its inhabitants from Christianity to Islam and moved to the next city, the former city would apostatize and become Christian again. Then, they had to return and reinvade and reconvert the citizens of that city. Many Berbers were killed during those processes. The Berbers managed to murder the main military commander of the Muslims, Uqba ibn Nafi. He was the nephew of Amir ibn al-As. He was ambushed and killed by Kausala, leader of the Araba tribe of the Berber people and the Christian head of the Sanyagia Confederation. Meanwhile, the third rightly guided Caliph Osman ibn Affan was murdered inside his house by Muslims due to his corruption and bad leadership. One of his murderers was the son of the first Caliph Abu Bakr al-Siddiq. That murderer was known as Muhammad. Later on, Muslims captured him and killed him in a very horrific way. They opened the stomach of a donkey and inserted the body of Muhammad ibn Abu Bakr inside the belly of the donkey until he died of suffocation. So far, by God's grace, two rightly guided caliphs and their false prophet were murdered for the evils they had done to innocent people. Some reliable Shiite sources mentioned that the first Caliph Abu Bakr also was poisoned by some Muslims, which caused his untimely death, just 2 years after his false prophet died of poison too. The same sources claimed that the daughter of Muhammad, Fatima al-Zahra, was poisoned by the Caliph Abu Bakr and died 6 months after the death of her father. As we shall see, the fourth rightly guided Caliph, Ali ibn Abi Talib, would be dispatched by Muslims in the same fashion. Those immediate 4 successors of Prophet Muhammad were named the rightly guided caliphs because they were supposedly directly guided by Allah. No other Muslim caliph, sultan, or king ever received that honorable and divine title except Abu Bakr al-Husayni al-Hashimi al-Qurshi al-Baghdadi, the spiritual, political, and militarily leader of ISIS, today Islamic Caliphate. Ali ibn Abi Talib was appointed the fourth and last rightly guided caliph. Ali's caliphate did not last for long before he was also assassinated by another Muslim. After the death of Ali, his rival Muawiyah ibn Abu Sufyan, Wali, governor of Syria, declared himself caliph and began the Umayyad dynasty, which made Damascus its main capital. After the death of Caliph Muawiyah, his son Yazid became caliph, and after him the caliphate passed from father to son, just same as kingship or monarchy. The Umayyad caliphs ruled the Muslim world for approximately 370 years, that includes their rule in Harran and Cordoba. Muslim mujahideen did not only kill the so-called infidels, but they engaged in internal conflicts among themselves and massacred each other like wild beasts. Islamic history books are full of many massacres that Muslim leaders fought against each other, during the wars of apostasy between Abu Bakr's mujahideen warriors and the Arab apostates, Aisha's army against Ali's fighters, Ali's troops against Muawiyah's mujahideen fighters, and throughout the history of Islam until the Turks against the Arabs, and Mongols against the Arabs and Turks, etc. At the time of the Caliph Yazid ibn Muawiyah, the Muslim troops invaded Mecca and destroyed the Black Kaaba, the house of their Allah, by the catapults, and raped thousands of young Muslim girls. The Muslim historians Ibn Sa'd, al-Tabari, and al-Waqidi narrated that the soldiers of Yazid ibn Muawiyah broke 1,000 Muslim girls' hymens in one single day. After the Umayyad caliphs came the Abbasid dynasty, which lasted for another 1508 years, until the last Abbasid caliph was killed by Hulagu Khan, the general commander of Genghis Khan's army. The Abbasid caliphs took revenge on the Umayyad clan and wiped out of existence every creature belonging to that family. Reliable Islamic history books mention that even those dead and gone Umayyad caliphs' bones were exhumed out of their tombs and made to stand trials. Then, each caliph's bones, going back to the first caliph Muawiyah, was severely scourged by whips and then burned into ashes. One of those cruel Abbasid caliphs was a gay and had a boyfriend. His male lover wasn't gay like him. The homosexual caliph warned his male lover against cheating on him. He strictly forbade him to never fall in love, have sex with any woman, touch any female jariyah, or marry any girl. In those days, gay marriage was not yet invented. The abominable gay marriage is the invention of our time. The Abbasid caliph's palaces were full of beautiful jawari, female salves and female captives. In each palace you could see teenage girls from all over the known world, Arab girls, Persian girls, European girls, Indian girls, African girls, etc. Mostly, those foreign girls were female captives of those defeated and killed infidels. They would be ordered to walk bare naked inside the palace courtyards and gardens. The caliph, his male relatives, and his top officials could grab a girl at any time and anywhere and rape her. Islam doesn't require him to marry her or even apologize to her because she is his right-hand possession, chattel and slave. He wouldn't care if she dies during the rape process. Just like a dog attacked a bitch or a cook a hen. Some of those Abbasid caliphs would brag among their royals and officials that they had never have sex with the same girls they deflowered. Each one of them, any time he wanted to deflower a brand new virgin. During those notorious adulterers and rapists, Abbasid caliphs, the famous classic book Alf Layla wa Layla, 1001 Nights, known in English as Arabian Nights, was composed. Despite all the evil deeds done by those criminal Abbasid caliphs and their bloodthirsty mujahideen, still the Abbasid dynasty is called the Golden Age of Islam. The gay caliph found out that his own sister was impregnated by his male lover. The two were having secret affair which escaped the notice of the homosexual caliph. At once, the outraged lover killed his male lover and refused to allow anyone to bury his body. He put the body of his male lover on a bridge and remained sitting near him and weeping throughout the night. I don't know what to make out of that sad love story. Should we blame the homosexual Muslim caliph who murdered his beloved, or his male lover who cheated on him, or the sister who fell in love with the lover of her brother and committed adultery with him? Let us leave it here and not get distracted any further by the like of such nonsense affair and return to our narration of the bloody Islamic invasions. When Uqba ibn Nafi was murdered by the Berbers in North Africa, the Umayyad caliph in Damascus sent a new Muslim military commander, Musa ibn Nasir, Moses, the son of a small Christian. From his name it is clear that Musa was born as a Christian but converted to Islam. His story of conversion began when he was a small boy living in a monastery in Syria with some Syrian monks. He was under training to learn the Bible and theology and then to become monk. Khalid ibn al-Walid invaded the monastery and took him as captive after slaughtering all the monks. Then, Khalid converted him to Islam and made him a slave in his house. Being converted and brought up by such outstanding military general of Islam turned out to be a great honor for Musa ibn Nasir. The Christian boy was brainwashed and turned into a bitter enemy of Jesus Christ and his followers. When he was grown up he became himself an outstanding military general of the Islamic troops. He was assigned by the Umayyad caliphs the task of reclaiming North Africa to Islam. Musa ibn Nasir learned from the mistake of the slain leader, Uqba ibn Nafi, and started to move slowly and convert the Berbers to Islam. The Berbers today are known as Amazigh. Uqba converted the entire region of North Africa, today Libya, Tunisia, Algeria, and Morocco, in just a few months. Musa ibn Nasir took a few years to accomplish the same task. After subduing and converting the Berber tribes from Christianity to Islam, Musa ibn Nasir began to think of moving to the Iberian Peninsula, today Spain and Portuguese. Musa knew that he was growing old and such task needed a young and strong commander. Surprisingly, such a commander turned out to be one of the defeated and subdued Berbers, Tariq ibn Ziyad. Those who fought for so long against the Muslim invaders and tried by all means to keep their Christian faith in a few years were turned into Muslim invaders themselves. Tariq ibn Ziyad was a fierce and successful Muslim commander too. He was nicknamed the Khalid ibn al-Walid of the Berbers. The newly resurrected militarily genius, Tariq ibn Ziyad made a solemn vow to convert Europe entirely until Rome and capture it for Islam. Muslims claimed that the Prophet Muhammad promised them that they would invade and open Constantinople and Rome, the two great capitals of Christendom, and turn the entire Christian world Muslim. History shows they tried for 7 centuries to invade and capture Constantinople, but they failed. Nonetheless, the so-called prophecy of their false prophet was partially fulfilled when the Ottoman Sultan, Muhammad II, Muhammad the Conqueror, captured and destroyed Constantinople in 1453, modern-day Istanbul. After they brought an end to the Byzantine Empire, the Muslim Ottomans destroyed half of Europe in order to fulfill that satanic prophecy, but it didn't work. Muslims still hold to the false prophecy and believe one day they will invade and take Rome, the capital of Italy and the center of the Roman Catholic Church. Tariq ibn Ziyad succeeded in invading Spain and converting thousands of its population into Islam. According to Dr. Bill Warner, in Spain, Muslims made piles of Christians' heads, slain in battle, that men on horsebacks could not see each other across. Tariq continued to take city after city, and in short time he converted the majority of the population into Islam. It seemed that Tariq was truly possessed by the spirit of the ruthless Muslim general Khalid ibn al-Walid, who defeated the Byzantine army and entirely destroyed the Persian Empire and converted its population to Islam. Tariq needed more troops because the Iberian Peninsula was too big for his small army of 12,000. He sent for his master and leader, Musa ibn Nasir, who was living in the city of Al-Qayrawan, in today Tunisia. Musa forwarded the demand of Tariq to the Caliph at Damascus. By this time the capital of the Islamic State was changed twice. From Medina was moved by the 4th Caliph Ali to Kufa in Iraq. When Ali was murdered, it was moved by the Caliph Muawiyah to Damascus. Finally, the Abbasid caliphs would move it back to Baghdad, today the capital of Iraq. When the Muslims of Arabia and Levant heard that a big door for jihad in the way of Allah was opened in Europe, hundreds of thousands of them gathered from Yemen, Iraq, Mecca, Medina, Damascus, Palestine, and Egypt. The numbers of the new Mujahideen had far exceeded what Tariq needed. Wherefore, the Caliph selected 18,000 strong fighters and sent the rest back to their places. After supplying the new troops, the Caliph sent a letter and demanded that Tariq ibn Ziyad should send to him 3,000 blonde virgins, young white girls. As soon as the letter reached Tariq ibn Ziyad, he fulfilled the demand of his Caliph and sent the 3,000 captured Christian teenage girls. This established direct relationship between Tariq and the Caliph of Damascus, which led him to ignore the orders of his master, Musa ibn Nasir, the Wali of North Africa. Musa understood that Tariq was pulling rank in him. Out of jealousy, he commanded Tariq to stop his rapid conquests and wait for him until he reached Andalusia, the ancient name of the Iberian Peninsula. Tariq ibn Ziyad refused to obey and continued to conquer city after city. I wonder when Tariq and his satanic mujahideen were invading, killing, raping, looting, pillaging, enslaving, burning, destroying, and converting the Christians of Spain to Islam by the sword, why the Pope of the Roman Catholic Church, the kings of Europe, and the Byzantine Emperor at Constantinople were silent and showed blind eye to the slaughter and suffering of their Christian brothers and sisters in the Iberian Peninsula. When Musa ibn Nasser reached the newly conquered lands with an army from Morocco under the leadership of his son, they also invaded many cities in the western region before they met with Tariq ibn Ziyad. When Musa ibn Nasser reached Tariq ibn Ziyad, he humiliated him in front of his troops. He tied him with ropes and flogged him severely for daring to disobey his orders. Most probably, the news of this fight between those two big military commanders reached the ears of the Caliph at Damascus. Therefore, without giving any explanation, the Caliph ordered both commanders to halt their jihad invasions and return immediately to Damascus. When the two reached Damascus, Tariq ibn Ziyad mysteriously disappeared and no one knew anything about him. Musa ibn Nasser was sent to Mecca for pilgrimage and also died mysteriously in Medina. The disappearances of those two ruthless commanders diminished the military power of the Muslim armies in Andalusia and finally led to their crashing defeat by the Frankish king, Charles Martel, the mayor of the palace, at the Battle of Tours, in October 732 AD. The Battle of Tours was fought between the huge Muslim army under the leadership of Abdul Rahman Ghaifigi of 30,000 mujahideen and the Frankish army of 25,000 soldiers. Muslim historians exaggerated and put the number of the Frankish army to 400,000. The Muslim army continued to advance in Europe and invaded South France. It kept on conquering, pillaging, looting, raping, enslaving, forcibly converting, and advancing until it reached 30 miles away from the capital city, Paris. On their way to Paris, the Muslims invaded many Frankish villages, towns, and cities and collected huge amount of booties. Many of the Muslim mujahideen felt that they had gotten enough spoils and needed to go back to Andalusia and return another time to invade the capital of the infidels. Nevertheless, their commander, Abdul Rahman Ghaifigi, insisted on continuing to Paris. He believed in the promise of his false prophet that great and blessed Muslim commanders were going to invade and capture Rome and Constantinople. At the time of the Battle of Tours, the Islamic military power reached its zenith. By then, it was the most powerful army in the entire world. At that time, Europe was not united under one military power. The leader of the Moors was entirely full confident of victory. Arabs, Berbers, and Christians of Andalusia who were converted to Islam were known as Moors. The Franks were just wanted to defend their country from the invading army. When the two armies met and the battle began, the Moors were showing superiority and the battle in their favor. Charles Martel, the commander of the Frankish army, understood the mentality of the Muslim Moors and knew exactly where their weak point lay. He understood that the Muslims were fighting for the booties, especially the women and wealth of the infidels. That interest did not surpass their interest in converting the infidels to Islam. They knew that if an infidel converts to Islam, then they cannot take his women and wealth. But, if he remains infidel, then they have the right to either kill him and get all his possession, women, wealth, cattle, and property, or force him to pay the jizya in gold. Modern historical research proves that the early Muslim mujahideen never carried copies of the Quran with them, but had only their swords, spears, and horses on them. Before the Battle of Tours, the Moorish mujahideen had already accumulated huge heaps of booty. The Moors were kept their booty at the rear, leaving a few mujahideen guards. Charles Martel, with a small excursion force, attacked the booty, killing the Muslim guards and set the huge heaps of the loot on fire. The Moors felt as if someone was setting their own families on fire. Accordingly, they broke their ranks and ran to save their booty. Such action led to confusion among the Moors. Their leaders lost control of the ranks. Immediately, the Franks ambushed the Moors and began to kill them. Some historians said that the Moors were so confused until they began to kill each other. Their main commander, Abdul Rahman Ghaifigi, was also killed in the melee. When their commander was slain, the Muslims began to flee from the battleground, leaving their booty and dead. It was a great victory for the Franks. Charles Martel emerged as a great hero and a savior of the West. He was nicknamed by the Pope of Rome, Charles Martel, which means Charles the Hammer. The Pope borrowed the name from the Jewish commander, Judas Maccabeus, in Hebrew Judas the Hammer, who defeated the Syrians under Antiochus IV, in 165 BC and rededicated the temple in Jerusalem. Many historians believed that the Battle of Tours saved Christianity and the Western civilization. Some historians also believed that, had the Moors won the Battle of Tours, Europe would be today an Arabian continent and the Europeans would be Muslims speaking Arabic. The causalities of the Frankish army were 1,100 dead while the Muslim army lost 12,000 including their main leader, Abdul Rahman Gay Figi. After the defeat of Poitiers or Tours, Muslim Moors never dared again invade France or try to advance in Western Europe. They continued to attack Constantinople for 700 years until they captured and destroyed it in 1453. Millions of the citizens of the Byzantine Empire fled to Europe and Russia. Those who remained were forcibly converted into Islam. Today the 99% of the Muslims of Turkey were once Orthodox Christians of Anatolia, which was part of the lost Byzantine Empire. Some historians said that the Second Rome, Constantinople, did not fall but it moved to Russia and Moscow became the Third Rome.